Hey everyone, welcome to today's video. Welcome to the Gaming Daddy channel. Thank you very much for tuning in. So today's video might take a little longer, and that's because I'm sharing some of my unfettered thoughts about the Division Heartland and what I believe that the game's business model would be. Now, if you notice from my thumbnail, I tried to make it a little smart alecky, and I put, story, and then I scratched out of and put, business model, because I believe the business model is going to drive what this Heartland game is going to be. And it's basically a standalone game. So when you hear that, you know that it's going to try its possible best to distinguish itself from the other Division games. And one of the really beautiful things about this game's franchise is, as a community, we get to kind of experience a lot of this stuff together. Now, that doesn't necessarily lend to a lot of the disagreements that we do have. And I think that's one of the primary focuses of this video, is to basically hash out some of those differences ahead of time, because I've learned to do that from the days of the Division 1. And you might wonder exactly what it is I'm getting at, but I'll let you know here, and then we'll jump into what I think the business model will be, why I think it's going to be that way, and some of the benefits or maybe even disadvantages of all of that. So right before the release of the Division 2, I remember having played the beta. I remember having engaged in the particular, kind of the same experience a lot of players had, engaged in, closed beta, open beta, and all of the above. And I remember there was a video that I made that really did resonate with, with me and a lot of the community members. And that video pretty much talked about how I felt that the Division 2 was one of those games that people who weren't necessarily certain should not engage in, but those who were kind of hardcore Division agents were going to enjoy nonetheless. And I remember making that video and sharing a lot of what I thought, talking about even possible bugs, possible issues that the game was going to have, and actually saying that those of us who are Division fans were going to play through and actually work through all of those issues as the game was developing. If you want to go to my library, February of 2019, you will find that video. And I remember also a lot of people in the community said, this is actually something that we strongly believe, because we've dealt with the drama from the Division 1, which in my opinion was way more than the drama. There wasn't drama in Division 2. I think it was just a lot more noise than anything else with, and I don't want to speak to that because I just didn't feel like a lot of it was actually, I don't think a lot of it was actually in a sense productive. But I remember also there was also another side of, the community and gamers with valid concerns, pretty much saying that I can't believe that there are gamers who would want to play a video game regardless of its bugs. How is the video game going to get any better? How can they justify doing that, even with bugs or issues? This is why games never get to progress, or this is why we always get broken games and, all of the other stuff. And I get it. I get those concerns. But, there are video games that I've bought. Their communities have continued to play them, and I've put down because I didn't enjoy those games. And even with the bugs and the issues in those games, their communities continue to play them. In fact, there are some communities I was a part of in terms of video games that I actually left and stopped playing because I felt like those developers were not providing any value, and I didn't enjoy the game enough to continue to stay and play in that ecosystem. FIFA will be one of those games. And, you have some other games that I bought that didn't necessarily resonate with me, but I never really made a big fuss about. I mean, I remember having Godfall. I played Godfall, and I paid the full price point for that game on PC. And it's probably one of the worst purchases I made in 2021, or was it last year it came out? I don't even know, but man, let's just bury that memory somewhere. And so it lends, the credence to having to understand exactly what it is you're buying before you actually make a purchase. I myself am a content creator. So yes, I can purchase these games using the ad revenue. It's not a lot, but I can use some of it to buy a video game, test it out, tell you if I think it's good or not, or maybe not even tell you anything at all. There are some other video games that I've been playing that I think are decent, and some that I've been playing that are more recent that I don't think are good, that I didn't even bother mentioning. And that's kind of the cycle of everything. But I also understand from the consumer perspective how that can be frustrating as well, which is why I would say, with Heartland, it will also be the same mindset. When you're going into a game like this, or whatever this game is going to be, the best thing an agent can do, or a Division player, or anybody who's interested in this, is that they can go in with tempered expectations. And I'm saying let's use tempered expectations in this video because Heartland is going to be free. We're not going to be paying for it like we did for Division 1 or Division 2. And I can tell you already that the growing pains of Heartland will probably be much more frustrating, especially the fact that it's free. If you guys remember the amount of frustration it got to get Division 1 and even the Division 2 to where it was, and those were paid products, can you imagine how much more it'll be for a product that's actually free to play? If you wanted to consider all of that, you really have to be a fan. You really have to have a lot more patience in order for you not to go on every content creator's channel and start to type your angry remarks, because this is what I usually get. If anything, I almost make a joke. There's an inside joke I make with my friends saying that I'm one of the most insulted YouTubers on this space because I take a different approach to the game. And so that kind of rubs off wrong on some other people. But I do understand. I get it. I can't please everybody. And I say the things that I say because I make videos like these right before the content comes out. So I free myself up to be able to just, cover the game the way that I please and not be in any way influenced or pressured by, how anybody else thinks about it. I want my perspective to be seen, and I want my perspective to be understood. I want anybody who's watching any Division video to understand exactly where it is this particular content creator stands. And that tells me that I'm going to be playing Heartland. Hopefully, nothing goes crazy. And I'm going to be playing every single aspect of it that I find interesting. The PvE side, if there's any, maybe some of the PvP side, maybe I might play a PvP in Heartland, because if they're now taking that game and taking it to a whole different direction, then I'm starting to see that they might want to go that direction of allowing for the game to, express what PvP is all about. Again, too, you also got to remember this is a standalone game that Ubisoft is designing to be a moneymaker. They're designing it to bring in revenue to the company, and they probably want to see what they can do with it if they were to push it in a model like, say, Rainbow Six. But, the game mode and the business model will look more like Destiny in terms of selling DLCs and all, but they want to see if they can achieve the kinds of revenues of Rainbow Six. I guess that's what I should have said. So when you kind of consider and take all these things into account, there's going to be some growing pains. There's going to be some level of dissatisfaction. There's going to be some level of skepticism from the community members. In fact, right now, when you go back and look on Twitter, you're going to see, community members on each other's necks. You're going to see people saying things like, oh, you can hate Division 2 and, and still be excited for Division Heartland. You're going to see comments, even from, these are Division 1 veterans, saying, well, I can't believe that people are still hyped for Division Heartland. Can they not remember that the Division did not, it's just a lot of bickering back and forth. So you're going to start hearing all this stuff on that level. And then once it drops, you're also going to see the people who are going to still come in and say, well, I told you it's an Ubisoft product. It's going to be disappointing and all of that. At the end of the day, I know something. Many agents are going to disregard a lot of that stuff. They're going to play the game for themselves. But then there are also going to be people who get carried away with that whirlwind of whatever the loudest voices are saying in the community. But at the end of the day, that's not going to bother me. I will still make content in the way that I deem and fit and feel is necessary. So I strongly believe that what we're going to see in Heartland is we're going to see the developers take, the game and kind of take some freedom and liberty in this particular game mode. I strongly think that they're going to work the game to look like Destiny. Now, why I'm saying this, and I've said this in previous videos, is because if you guys think about Destiny's business model, Destiny used to be a fully paid game. They eventually broke away from Activision. Bungie broke away from Activision and decided that for them to be able to get their game to get more relevance, they needed to bring people into the ecosystem and then continue to, sell them expansions, seasons, cosmetics, and all of that stuff. So they took that approach and did that with Destiny 2. Now, you may wonder, why not do it with the Division 2? Well, there are just a lot of complications. I don't even know what platforms, the Division Heartland will be on. I don't think they've even announced what platforms it'll be on. So that's another possibility. Might be a next-gen game. And when you think about that, then it starts to kind of come full circle. Another thing, too, that you also kind of have to consider as well is, even though you may say, okay, well, Heartland has this appeal where people want it to be free to play and all of the above, but then you also got to think about, say, potentially, when they bring out that model with it, then they're able to kind of start to draw people in and get their foot in the door, and then they can start to upsell them with cosmetics or whatever it is. Now, some have proposed and some have, hypothesized that this is going to be, a cash grab. It's going to be heavily monetized and all of the above. But again, you cannot, blame them, because what they're doing is they're trying to leverage the business model to be financially profitable and go outside and find new players. This is one of the things that I try to tell my audience knows this. And I wish I could reiterate it in a way that is not too harsh, but corporations don't really care about, consumers, or dedicated consumers. They don't, their care for dedicated consumers are only stretch as far as the transaction that they can get that consumer to make. I wish many would understand that video games are treated in the same way. Video games are not here, to do self-care for a lot of gamers. I wish people would understand this. And it sounds really callous saying it that way, but from what I've seen with this gaming industry, the financial bearings are very important to a lot of these companies. So you really have to go there from a perspective of saying, this is going to be something that is not appealing to me. You have to approach it from that. If not, you're going to be very disappointed. I played the Division 1's beta, and I wasn't really impressed after I played it. I was like, well, whatever. But then as I continued to play it, I was like, well, why does this game seem really interesting? Why does this game seem like I can continue to play it without any reserve? And then I jumped in and started playing it and realized that I really did enjoy it. In the case of the Division 2, I went in with very, very low expectations. In fact, I told myself that Division 2 was not going to be a big deal. I convinced myself that it wasn't going to be something that I really enjoyed. And boy, was I, wrong. I enjoyed it much more than I actually did think. And that was good for me. And I think, expectations would also be something that a lot of players will benefit from when it comes to the way that they actually approach the game. If you take your expectations into Heartland to be very, very high, you're going to get disappointed because you don't know what it is. I don't know what it is. Maybe people who have already done some early testing kind of know what it is. They haven't been allowed to share their thoughts or share their opinions on the matter. And so it's going to be interesting to see how it all boils down and how it all plays out. So again, this is one of those, do not engage in this particular mode because, or temper your expectations. I guess I'll say that. Because at the end of the day, when you're disappointed, or if you're disappointed, then you know that you haven't invested much expectation into the mode itself. And if it comes out that you love it, then it means it surpassed your expectations, which is also a good thing. So I guess that's pretty much one of the really interesting aspects of the way I approach video games and the way a lot of players approach video games. And I strongly think that, this is a way for us to be able to remain healthy as gamers. If not, we're going to lose our minds with this whole process. But anyways, I'll get out of your hair. I appreciate you guys for watching the video. Thank you so much for your time and audience. Hopefully we'll talk soon. Peace out.